staffed, and to improve service, NJ Transit needs to invest in more drivers that will relieve the workload of the drivers that exist.
Drivers are usually now picking up multiple patients along a route more than they used to because there's not enough drivers to backfill the demand. So their trips might be 2 or 3 times longer because they're having to make extra stops along the way that are out of what would be the usual route.
He says drivers are also facing mandatory overtime and are among the lowest paid drivers with commercial driver's licenses.
Karen, quickly here, have there been any changes to improve Access Link?
The governor did sign a bill that would give drivers time and a half during emergency road closures, but this is really a small win. Paratransit advocates and drivers say there is so much more investment needed to retain and attract more drivers.
That's Karen Yee, our New Jersey reporter there for WNYC. Karen, thank you.
Thank you.
WNYC is supported by Queens Long Island Renal Institute, providing chronic hemodialysis and state-of-the-art technology, located on the campus of Parker Jewish Institute. More at qliri.org.
On the next Fresh Air, after writing a best-selling, award-winning book about the legacy of slavery and monuments commemorating slave owners and Confederate leaders, Clint Smith has a new book of poems. They're about fatherhood and raising children when the earth itself is in crisis. Join us.
Weekdays at 2 on 93.9 FM WNYC.
Marketplace Morning Report is coming up next, and then in 10 minutes at 9 o'clock, it's the BBC News Hour on 93.9 FM. Let's check in with London and see what they're working on. London, good morning.
Good morning, WNYC. I'm Razia Iqbal on today's News Hour. In the first case of its kind, more than 2,000 Swiss women are going to the European Court of Human Rights. They allege the government's policy on climate change is threatening their lives. And a prominent defence think tank in the UK says Russia's security and intelligence services have had far more success than its army in Ukraine. BBC News Hour coming up at 9 on 93.9 FM WNYC.
A gargantuan online firm thinks it's worth more if it chops itself into bits.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance. Customers can simplify their insurance needs and protect what's important by bundling home and auto. Learn more about bundling at Progressive.com.
I'm David Brancaccio. The Alibaba conglomerate, in some ways the Amazon of China, is breaking itself into 6 different companies. The resulting chunks will be focused on, for instance, remote computing services, that is to say the cloud, also digital media, and Alibaba's core work, helping other companies sell things to consumers. Marketplace's Nova Safo has more.
Investors are greeting Alibaba's split up with optimism that China's regulatory crackdown on its internet companies may be nearing an end. Over the last couple of years, Chinese government officials have issued new regulations on domestic companies they think are too big and monopolistic. The crackdown sent Alibaba's founder, Jack Ma, out of the country over the past year. He returned one day before the company announced the biggest restructuring in its 24-year history. 5 of the 6 companies that will be formed from Alibaba's split are likely to issue initial public offerings, according to the Reuters news agency. A split company could be less vulnerable to future crackdowns should they occur, and the new companies could be in a position to better compete with rivals. Alibaba has been losing e-commerce market share in China. I'm Nova Safo for Marketplace.
Alibaba stock went up 12% in Hong Kong. Here, Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are up between 7 and 0.8%. With 2 days left of March, the S&P 500 is at just about the same level as it was to start the month. Stock in AMC Theaters went up 13% yesterday and another 3% in pre-market trading now after an entertainment industry news site suggested that Amazon might be interested in buying AMC, something Amazon has not confirmed. California Governor Gavin Newsom has signed into law a new power to fine oil companies for price gouging. It's a first for any state, and it forces fossil fuel companies to disclose price info to a new state agency that'll have the power to subpoena executives. You may remember California's average gas price last year running above $7 a gallon. Here's Marketplace's Lily Jamali.
Californians are used to paying more for gas, but last summer, prices shot past the $8 a gallon mark at some gas stations in the state. UC Berkeley Haas School of Business professor Severin Borenstein says California has what he calls a mystery gasoline surcharge. He says the law will provide regulators more transparency into why prices here are so much higher than elsewhere.
They do not have visibility into the individual prices that are charged between the refiners and the retailers. That's the sort of information they need in order to really do this investigation.
A spokesperson for California-based Chevron, which opposed the law, says it'll discourage investment in refining in California, which may just push prices higher. I'm Lily Jamali for Marketplace.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Baird, dedicated to attracting and retaining talent from across the financial industry, providing continuity for clients. More at BairdDifference.com.
It's 3 years since many Americans either lost jobs due to lockdown or switched to remote as pandemic was declared. Do you work for a boss still trying to drag people back to the office? Consultant Keith Ferrazzi and his team at Ferrazzi Greenlight have been researching this and have found lots of missed opportunities for making the mixture of remote and in-office function better for the business and for employees. Keith is author of Competing in the New World of Work. Keith, welcome back.
David, I always enjoy our conversations.
Wherever anybody's going to work in this new scheme of working, they have to be connected one way or another. You've thought a lot about how you build this kind of connectivity.
The average bonding of a team prior to the pandemic was, on a scale of 0 to 5, 2.8. During the pandemic, the average team went down to a 2.3 in terms of its bondedness and connectedness. But what was very interesting is that there were a few teams decided to use this inflection point and reinvent the way they created connectedness. They decided to do regular check-ins on what are people's energy. For those teams that imposed very purposeful practices, the score of bonding went up to 4.4. So for CEOs who are dragging people back because they're concerned about culture and connectedness, they're leveraging an old school mechanism called serendipity, when in reality there are available to us proactive, productive, and incredibly strong bonding techniques that can be done in a hybrid world of work.
So how's it work in practice? I mean, more one-on-ones with the boss, or I'm supposed to share my feelings now? I sometimes feel I don't have any feelings to share.
Well, I got to tell you, during the pandemic, we unleashed a sense of authenticity. We unleashed a sense of peer-to-peer camaraderie that was really unheralded. And there is no question that empathy and vulnerability is a golden key to creating that kind of connectedness. You asked practically, one simple way is to do a weekly energy check-in. If the whole team is open and willing to share together, then you have an entire team of bonded individuals.
But that doesn't work unless there is, and you've alluded to this, a heavy portion of trust in those relationships.
When you start to do that exercise, of course, you may have a level of tepidness, a level of holding back. But little by little, one individual will share more deeply, creating empathy among the group. Another individual will leverage that and gain the courage to do that for themselves. And little by little, you'll be able to build the kind of relationships that I call co-elevating, the kind of relationships that are deeply committed not only to a mission, to a business, but committed to each other. And it's through those simple practices, it's practices that yield the transformation of outcomes and mindset. So the answer is just to start.
Keith Ferrazzi is the chairman and founder of the consulting firm Ferrazzi Greenlight, and his most recent book is called Competing in the New World of Work, How Radical Adaptability Separates the Best from the Rest. Keith, always good to talk to you.
Oh, David, thanks so much.
And a group of academics, some high-tech notables, including Elon Musk and Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak, and about 1,000 other people have signed a letter urging a 6-month pause on developing new versions of artificial intelligence of the ChatGPT kind. The signatories are worried about risks to society unless the technology is better understood and new safety protocols are developed. The letter, an informed suggestion but not binding, is from the nonprofit Future of Life Institute that studies the unintended risks of technology. I'm David Brancaccio. You're listening to the Marketplace Morning Report. APM, American Public Media.